So your bill will come.
Well, here we are. It's in between two games right here on Cricbuzz Live. We started with South Africa against West Indies. We speculated, we wondered whether South Africa would be impacted by the loss of Quinton de Kock, more by the manner of why he was not playing. A lot has been spoken, but a clinical victory against the defending champions. 18.2 overs to get 144 for two. Aiden Markram getting a rapid fire 51 of 26, and a calm, collected Rassie van der Dusen batting pretty much through the innings to get 43 of 51 deliveries. No real impact, just the one wicket for Akil Hussain and a run out for the West Indies. We, of course, are going to look forward to the next game coming up. So much to focus on that, particularly for Team India, Pakistan versus New Zealand. First, a quick one to wrap up the first game in the company of Joy and Harsha. Sort of on Cricbuzz Combox, Harsha, we said 85-15. It then became 96-4 on the official predictor. They really didn't have a way in, did they? Unless they had an impact bowler, which they didn't.
I think these predictor numbers, no, they're like the tally of independents in an election. Somewhere 1, 2, 3, somewhere you see them coming through. You know, I don't know where the 4 came from, to be honest. Beyond a point. I mean, the other day when West Indies made 55, it showed 1, 2. So maybe there's a tolerance to the calculation. I don't know. But it was at 11th over, Gautam. When we were doing the Combox, in that 11th over, they got 16. And thereafter, it just became easy. But I think the West Indies will look back at this game and say, who is our enforcer? Who is the Nokia in this side? Who is the Shaheen Shah Afridi in this side? You see the fast bowlers are doing well again. So you need someone who's got that extra pace on him, extra zip on him to come in and change games. And I look down that side, the only one with any kind of pace is Andre Russell. But Russell has traditionally gone at 9.5 and over a career. So there isn't somebody in that side who's enforcing it. And so for the West Indies to win, they needed to score 185, 190. You look back to the West Indies team that did well in 2016, they were all a lot younger. Also, so hence my fear at the start of the tournament that the West Indies, we enjoy watching them, but the West Indies could be one of the disappointments of this World Cup.
And they've already shown why in the first 2 games. Joy, one of the points he makes is about, Harsha makes is about the lack of an enforcer bowler. And while Ravi Rampal is there, he's trundling over it. Maybe his pace suits the wickets, but you need somebody to keep him supported the other end and blast a wicket out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't even necessarily need to be a fast bowler also. If you have a spinner of the quality of, say, Rashid Khan or the quality of a Sunil Narayan in his form, you still have somebody who's going to come in and say, okay, I'm going to 6th, 7th over. This guy's going to come in. They have to try and hit him. If they try and play him out, they're just going to be in run rate trouble. They have nobody like that in their side. So the batsmen looked very untroubled. I mean, even if they didn't score runs, they knew that there's nobody out there that they were really scared of. And this is not a West Indies team. You need at least 1 or 2 such bowlers. It'd be fantastic to have 2 such bowlers. And South Africa right now have those bowlers. And it's just very interesting that this West Indies team, it's built to make, I think in some ways they've adapted too much to saying that these conditions are going to be, slow and low. So we do go with spinners and all, because as Harsha is saying that fast bowling, there's nothing that 145, a Yorker at 145 cannot be replaced. No cricket, it'll never be obsolete. That's the point.
Yeah. But good to see Rassie. I mean, just a little word on those 2 batsmen before we go to the next game. Rassie van der Dusen has come at 31 years old. He's got an amazing story going around playing in for some of the smaller franchises in South Africa, but a very correct batsman who understands situations. And because of the start that Reza Hendricks gave and the finish that Markram provided, Rassie van der Dusen could play these kind of innings. We've often said that there is no role for an anchor in T20 cricket. That is true in 180 games. In 150 kind of games, you always need one anchor. And I think Rassie has done that. This is something we keep going back to the Marlon Samuels innings. But what about Aiden Markram? We've been seeing him for a while, and the general feeling is Aiden Markram has come out of a very classical cricket school. Plays very correct, right behind the line. He's a very classical batsman. And there's always, from the time he came, everyone's been saying big things about Aiden Markram. And then you wondered if he's going to make it. But I'd love to look at the numbers. I'm talking top of my head. But I think you'll find the last 6 to 8 months, he's been one of the most improved, but also one of the most effective cricketers in the game. And see what he's done today. He's not bound by orthodoxy. He's using it as a base for his game to rise beyond, and he's been fantastic.
Yeah, certainly gave the impetus to the South African run chase, Joy. But what Harsha said about Van der Dusen is something similar to what Zahid Khan was suggesting a couple of days ago on this show. He said, play the situation, don't play the format. Just because it's T20, you don't have to blast it. Don't do a Lendl Simmons, but play the situation. Because of the runs on the board, he had to play that sort of innings, and he did.
Yeah, if Lendl Simmons had been chasing 143 and he played the innings he did, maybe you would have turned around and said, okay, he's playing the situation. He's making sure wickets don't go down. The other batsman's keeping them in touch with the run rate. It's all well. Your problem with it is that he's setting the target. And when setting the target, you can't take 30% of your team and score 16 runs. But one other thing, I was just thinking about it, that, we talk about South Africa's drought in international cricket, never winning big trophies. Well, the last trophy that you can call big that they won was that under 19 2014 World Cup. And guess who was the man of the series of the tournament? Aiden Markram. He just starred. He was the star of that tournament. And that's really where he announced himself to the world stage.
Yeah. Him and Rabada. But we remember Rabada didn't remember Markram as much in spite of what he did, because Rabada was just in your face with his pace. But yeah, you make a very valid point. Markram is an excellent player. I can see him playing a lot more in India in franchise cricket. I know people watching will say, there they come back to the IPL. But I'm saying he could be among the players to look forward to, simply because he gives you both. He's a brilliant fielder, and now he's giving you 2 overs every game. So he's allowing South Africa those extra overs. I know he bowled one expensive over, but those 2 overs of 4 set the pace early on. He bowled a maiden over.
The other extra aspect he gives you, Harsha, leadership. Ever since he came on the scene, from under 19 up to the senior side, they said future captain of South Africa, and maybe it's time they started looking to groom one.
Also, opener, bats 3, today batted 4, played a different role. He's batted at 3, he's opened with Quinton de Kock in the past. So, one wonderful player.
Yeah, and I think overall, just to sum it up for South Africa, there were problems. We were wondering if it'll mentally affect them, the entire Quinton de Kock saga. So far, it hasn't. We had our views on whether or not it should have happened the way it happened, but 2 points in the board is all they look at taking away from this particular game. But let's keep that aside for now and look ahead. Pakistan versus New Zealand. Pakistan have won the toss, and once again, they've decided in Sharjah to ask New Zealand to set a total. Match number 19 from India's group, coming to you from Sharjah. Huge game. The ramifications of it, of course, will impact the points table. But let's look straight off at the playing 11s, starting with the Pakistan 11.
Yeah,
here we have a look at it. No surprises, Harsha.
They're the perfect game. They don't need to change anything. You don't know if Fakhar Zaman, Mohammad Hafiz, Shoaib Malik, Asif Ali are in form or no, because you couldn't check. So for them, the only thing is they've given Hassan Ali another go. I think in that bowling lineup, there's only one bowler you can really look and say, right, I think I can target him, because he bowls such a lovely length. Hassan Ali, since he bowls a lovely, on a length, moving away that sometimes can become easier to hit. But apart from that, they've got a very good finisher in Haris Rauf. They've got specialist bowlers in Imad Wasim, who will sort of swing the ball in early on. Shaheen Afridi, who's a fantastic bowler. So they've got enough bowling, and then Hafiz is giving them a little bit. I think the problems are in the other camp. You might say that the initial luck you need in the tournament, Pakistan is getting all of that with winning the toss, and as we've just heard, with New Zealand losing their key bowler for the series.
Yes, the big news, key bowler for the series, i.e. Lockie Ferguson. You will not see his name on the list because of a calf tear. He has been ruled out. So it means there's an opportunity for somebody else. So Southee and Bolt would have played anyway. I'm assuming Daryl Mitchell is the name that slots in there in the place of Lockie Ferguson, Joy.
Daryl Mitchell, you think that if Lockie went in there, I think it depends. I don't see Santner batting there. Santner, they rate him pretty highly. He'll probably bat higher than that. But yeah, Lockie coming in there, this looks like again, what we were talking about. That Shaheen Afridi role, what he's going to play for Pakistan, the enforcer bowler. They've just lost their enforcer bowler. They've lost the guy they're going to toss the ball to and say, take wickets for us. And look at that record. He was fantastic. And Pat Cummins not coming back, you can say, is a blessing in disguise to look at it that way for a quality of bowler of Pat Cummins. But it's true. Lockie was really effective for them in that second leg.
Yeah, certainly
And,
was.
and you know, we talk about the little things that suggest bigger things might happen. So the replacement is Adam Milne. Now, a lot of us thought Adam Milne should have been in the side for Tim Southee in the first place because these balls are not swinging very much, though Afridi got it to swing the other day. But now Adam Milne will come in, but I don't think he could have come in time for this game. Which game will Adam Milne be ready in time for?
India.
The game on the 31st, yeah. But I think it's a huge game. There's something about New Zealand. You look down those two sides and you think it's a no-brainer. There's one team that plays excellently in these conditions. These conditions are tailor-made for Pakistan because their bowlers are bowling well and allowing them to play 150 games. The moment you get into a 180 game, then Pakistan's entire batting order has to go through a change because their openers like to play run a ball or maybe 110, 115 initially and then go up. So, yeah, it's tailor-made, these conditions.
But of course, when you talk about experience, Joy, it's almost, I mean, each time we talk about Pakistan, they played a wonderful game the other day against India, but it's conditions that they sort of know well. Their home ground for such a long time through for reasons that were out of their hands.
Yeah, I know, they say there's this whole saying that your greatest disadvantage often turns out to be your greatest advantage. The very fact that they played so much in Dubai and so much in these conditions has just turned out to be so much of an advantage for them. I mean, also remember though they tried to bring it back to Pakistan in recent years, most of the PSL has been played out here. And so they T20, top level T20 cricket playing out here. They know every bowler, what they do in the surface. I'm just still a bit surprised that they're going with 240-year-olds and Shoaib Malik and all. Of course, you could always turn around and say that they weren't tested in the first match, so there's no reason to drop them. But I would have thought that you're playing both those guys because it's an India match and you need experienced players, and keep one of those guys and get a younger person like Haider Ali in. But they've done what they've decided to do.
I'm a little surprised. I'm trying to think who's going to bowl in the power play for New Zealand when the time comes, because they've got Bolt and Southee. They don't want to go Neesham and Mitchell into the end overs, right? So for the end overs, they want to go back to Trent Bolt, though that's not his strong suit. His strong suit is bowling up front. So will Southee come back and bowl at the death? He's got no choice. But who bowls at the death then? You'll have a little bit of Bolt, but Mitchell and Neesham will have to go deep. And that is where I think there could be an opportunity for Pakistan, unless Southee and Sodhi have made inroads in the middle overs. That Sodhi is a very underrated cricketer, We say, yeah, Ish Sodhi, an Indian-sounding name in a New Zealand side, and with our arrogance, we tend to look down on that. But he's a really good cricketer, Ish Sodhi. So he's always taking wickets. You look at the scorecards when New Zealand are playing, there'll be a 2 for 28, a 3 for 31. He's always taking wickets.
Yeah, I can tell you, we had a fun story with Ish Sodhi when he came into the Canada League a couple of years ago. He was late getting into the tournament. He got off a flight, wasn't expected to play that day because he had literally just landed from all the way in New Zealand. So they said, take a couple of days off. Then he landed up at the ground. He said, listen, I'm here. I might as well play. And he picked up 5 wickets.
No, amazing. I love his performance. I also think that really a lot of the New Zealanders really rate Michael Santner, because they feel that he's an intelligent cricketer. He's very much in that, they have that mold of intelligent cricketers who, captaincy material as well. And, he's that veterinary kind of player, cerebral players, but they rate him as a batsman. And in fact, Stephen Fleming was talking about him a couple of years back. Chennai was very seriously looking at him as a pinch hitter or somebody who could open the innings. Of course, it didn't turn out that way, but he's quite capable with the bat, and he just hasn't got that role. So those are the kind of players that, work very well for New Zealand. Sort of, they fit in anyway. They'll come and bowl a couple of overs. They'll all be gun fielders, and then they can, just open and score a few runs as well.
If you remember, there was a game he played for CSK. He hit a 6 of the last ball to win. And there's Dooley and us. We were in the time in Cricbuzz Live. Happily in those days, used to come out of our studios. And there was Dooley saying, he's a great golfer. He's going to hit it straight. He's a great golfer. He's going to hit it straight. And hit the last ball for 6. So New Zealand have these people. If they can get off to a start, they've got people like Neesham, Mitchell, Santner, who can, Daryl Mitchell and Mitch Santner. It sounded like I was taking the break in the centers at the wrong time, who can give you runs at the end.
But Harsha, just to follow up on that, while we talked about Pakistan being familiar with these conditions, all these names are there, but the big names at the top of the order, the batsmen, they're going to be batting first. Setting a total here, Devon Conway with the amount of experience he's had there, class player Kane Williamson, but someone like a Glenn Phillips who maybe enjoys different kind of conditions to thrive in with his kind of game.
I've never seen, I've read a lot and heard a lot and only seen glimpses of Glenn Phillips at his best. Obviously, his numbers as such a big six hitter, I've never actually had the opportunity of sitting and watching Glenn Phillips take an attack apart. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing how he goes today. A wicketkeeper who likes bowling. I had a quick chat with him at one of the presentations and said, "What about bowling?" He said, "I get bored at a cricket match if I'm not in the thick of it all. So I go to the nets, I've batted. Now what do I do?" So I love bowling. He said, "I bowl throughout the nets." And they don't need him here because they've got 6 bowlers and Pakistan don't have too many left-handers till they come down to Imad Wasim and the others. They've only got one in the top order. So they probably won't need his off breaks. But they're an interesting character. And I think a lot of players like Phillips, like Seifert, will go into this game with a nothing to lose attitude. If they go in and say nothing to lose, man, those guys are the favorites. Come. That is when upsets happen.
Yeah, he does pull out his off spin from time to time. But there's one other aspect we haven't talked about. We did mention there's always something hanging around outside the boundary line. And the obvious one, the sentiments in the Pakistan camp, whether it's with the players, the administration or the fans, is about the history of the pullout recently. Now, will that add a little bit of extra spark, not just to the game, but to the performance of the players, Joy?
It's an interesting one because I think Kane Williamson put it best. He turned around and said, "We players had no decision in this. We had absolutely nothing to do with this. Security, England, UK security picks it up. They give it to New Zealand security. New Zealand security says, okay, we can't. It's too much of a threat to ignore. It's a credible threat. They had to do it." My problem is, and look, I don't blame Pakistan for playing this way because 2 things. One is that if you stay statesman like this, make statements like this about the players and not playing and all that, you're going to unfortunately get great TRPs. It's a kind of statement that will be picked up by 30 people. So I mean, God knows we have enough in India as well. People who will make statements just to rile people up, because blaming this New Zealand team who had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with playing or not playing. It's not that a single player was asked saying that, are you okay playing here or not playing? The decision was taken before they came. So my point is that I understand why Pakistan would use it to try and up their players and say there's a grudge match out here. But they have absolutely no logical reason for thinking that way. Of course, coaches, players, a lot of people do things like this to motivate themselves.
Grudge against Kane Williamson. What? I mean, he was not on that tour anyway. Then the people who were on that tour were not part of the side. So none of the players playing here were actually supposed to be out there in Pakistan playing those games. But sometimes, if it can bring you together, so be it. If that's what's going to drive Pakistan together, so be it. But I only hope they don't make a song and dance about it. Certainly not former cricketers who you think should understand better.
Fair point there. And the irony again of it is that it's the nice guys. We keep talking about them, and they certainly are the gentlemen of the game, led by Kane Williamson. Ramiz Raja, of course, has been the thick of many and famous and infamous quotes. And this is the one that the latest one that's come relevant to this particular game. We go into the World Cup now, and where we had 1 team in our target, our neighbours India, we now add 2 more teams, New Zealand and England. So pick up the strength and develop a mindset that we are not going to lose because you didn't do right by us, and we will avenge that on the ground. Strong words coming from...
Yeah, there's far too much playing to the gallery. I'm very happy I'm there. I'm at the stage I am in my career. But there's so much playing to the gallery that it almost seems that if you tell people it's a sport, you're wrong. Because you must be seen to be playing to the gallery. The biggest enemy to credibility and common sense is the TRP, where that is the only thing you're playing for. I mean, it has saddened me no end. Absolutely saddened me no end to see what Waqar Yunus has said about the game against India. I mean, here's someone you've always said, wow, what a player. And the cricketers would have us believe that the cricketers know what to say and what not to say. And then to go out and talk about religion on the field of play and doing it in front of others was one of the most disappointing, saddening things I've heard. You cannot have former cricketers starting to play to the gallery and talk about religion on a playing field in front of someone of another religion. Waqar Younis has played this game. He's been part of so many great battles. And I feel very, very saddened when former players start to get into this and bringing the religion card into sport. No, man, it's disappointing when that happens.
And Joy, I think the most disappointing part, as Harsha himself, is that we've all been close to all these guys. We've had Waqar Younis on our show so many times, flying in for us to India. Ramiz Raja's
Waqar Younis did the entire Asia Cup with us. The first time he did proper commentary with us was in the Asia Cup. And he lives in Australia most of the time, or used to live in Australia a substantial portion of the time. So I just simply, playing to the gallery at this point in time, just because you're on a television program, it gets you more votes, is just, and there are people guilty of it from all religions and all spectrums. Unfortunately, it's just, I think it's a time at which, can we tell people, let's talk about cricket? I mean, that's why we are here. This is a game of cricket. This is not a war. This is not a political, this is not an election rally. It's a game of cricket. Can we talk about it?
And what that does is it puts the entire countries, entire cricket communities, it starts to envelop all of them and give people the feeling there's a homogeneous group underneath that, which is not true. I've met so many cricket lovers in Pakistan. I've met so many cricket lovers in India who are not like that. But when you make statements like that, you now are trying to be this aggressive player to the gallery, but you do great harm and great disservice to people from your own country. Anyway, this will start to overcome the game. But I'm saddened and disappointed.
Yes, exactly. I think that's the subtle difference between playing to the gallery and having a one-off comment coming from the gallery, which you can't always control, which will always happen and can be sort of filtered through. That is what we hope, as Harsha put out in his tweet, will render some sort of a backtrack or a retractment, which we certainly hope will come at some point.
The only reason I said I'm sure he will apologize. I know he won't, because he can't. He can't, because the moment he apologizes, he's lost people over there. So now he cannot apologize. I was trying to make a very subtle point, saying I hope he apologizes, because I was trying to say something else by saying that, but that's not going to happen. But that's okay. There are all kinds of people everywhere. So that's okay.
Well, let's get back to the cricket, which is what the two teams will be getting to very, very shortly. Whether it's a grudge match or not, it's a crucial match. We cannot ignore that. It's crucial for Pakistan, crucial for New Zealand, crucial for India as well. India will be keeping a lookout just above Scotland on that points table, if you can call it a points table, with having not got any points. But Afghanistan with that net run rate, Pakistan on 2. If New Zealand can slip up to 2 over there, 31st of October becomes even more spicy. Not that it doesn't anyway, India's next fixture. But I think, Joy, India will be keeping an eye on this game as much as anyone else.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing about it. It tells you a little bit more about how people regard a match like this. It tells you about their attitude towards life, how pessimistic or optimistic it is. If you're a pessimist, you will say that, let New Zealand lose. Okay, so that whatever happens, if we beat New Zealand, we have a great chance of going through. Okay, we are sure of going through.
And then
if you're an optimist, you say, hey, you know what? Let them win. Let New Zealand win. Then we'll beat everyone else. We'll top the group, and then we'll win the group on run rate, because we're going to score so many runs. So how India supports this match will depend on whether you are an optimist or a pessimist. There are people who say, oh, no, let New Zealand win, and then we'll smash everyone, and we'll get so many, we'll just do it. So I love the way.
Yeah, I've had exactly that, Harsha. In the lobby about an hour ago, I had exactly that. 2 sets of fans saying exactly the opposite. One going for Pakistan for one reason, the other saying, no, topping the group is important because we have to play this semi-final and not the other one.
Yeah, but I think if there's one thing all these years of watching has told us, is that we don't write scripts. And I hope there are never any scripts written about a cricket match. But then we'll go into another area. So we are not going there. I just hope the Indians are sitting there and saying, it's not in our hands, right? What happens. Once that game happens, then let us now see what we have to do. Because if you don't beat New Zealand, you're virtually gone anyway. So it doesn't matter what happens in this game. You have to beat New Zealand anyway. So I hope Indian team that's watching this is saying, "Jo hai so hai, bhai." There's nothing we can do about that result. So why lose sleep over what we want to happen when we don't control it anyway?
Exactly. What matters is on the 31st that either result will still mean you have to go out and beat New Zealand, whether you qualify first or second. What you don't want to do is lose to New Zealand and qualify third, because that doesn't count. So that's all that we'll talk about for the moment. It's Pakistan versus New Zealand. Pakistan have won the toss. They've asked New Zealand to bat first. It's the first look we are getting at them, Joy. It's a surface. They'll need to try and think of what kind of a score to put on the board, because they've just seen Pakistan chase down 150 plus without losing a wicket. That will influence their approach, sort of, won't it?
It will. And again, I say that it's really important for one of their senior guys to go out there and send a message with the gloves and all, saying this is a 160, 170 wicket, it's a 150 wicket. Somebody needs to go out there and assess that wicket early, because you can't depend on the young kids like a Phillips or a Nisham to do it. It's got to be a Kane Williamson, Guptill with all his influence. I know Guptill has never done anything in the subcontinent, but he's a phenomenal player. He's a phenomenal limited over cricketer. And somebody has to send that message saying, okay, you know what? 160 is a good total here.
I think before we even get a prediction, Harsha, New Zealand have already thrown out the first salvo that we're going to change around our batting order. We're going to do something a little bit different. Guess who's opening with Martin Guptill?
It's not Santner.
Who's coming?
Mitchell. Yeah,
Darryl
it's one
Mitchell.
of the,
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe they've said, look, we've got Santner up to number 8. Let's send a guy to go flat out, and see what happens. So let's see. Interesting. New Zealand will play it cerebrally. Of that, there is no doubt. Whether they have the ability to convert their planning into a win, we'll wait and see.
So fair enough. Prediction time. 20 overs. New Zealand lost the toss, batting first.
I'm reading the Cricbuzz app and it says no sign of in-swing straight away. Why, Shaheen Afridi? Why can't you swing it now? Why did you have to keep your swing for that day? I'm going 165.
Was that line from the Cricbuzz app influencing it by about 10 runs, Harsha?
No. I'm just thinking. I was thinking in my mind, for New Zealand to win it, what do they need? Will they get those? I'm not sure 165 will win them the game, but I think that is where it will be. If they get more than that, great. From their point of view.
Well, I think Pakistan's bowling will come into their own, and I'm going fairly much lower than that at 144.
Okay. I'll slot in at
wide
150.
gap. You've got a wide gap.
You don't have to be the sandwich. Come on, Joy. Come on. Show your personality. Come on. Don't just pop in there and all. You're on Gurgaon. Come on.
It was too big a gap that was left for him.
Appealing to the North Indian in me will not help. It's like a parking space in a crowded mall. I've found something. I'm going in there. 155 for me.
Okay.
I love the analogy. Parking space in a crowded mall. We do that all the time in Gurgaon. So that's it. 140s, 150s and 160s. That's around the big range we feel we've left open for New Zealand. Opening with Darryl Mitchell. Interesting reading ahead. Grudge match or not? Crucial match, as we said. We'll see you in the 10th over on Cricbuzz Combox. So much to talk about at the end. 2 matches to review. But for now, that's all on Cricbuzz Live.